Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 9A is the labor agreement with CSCA. I don't know if anyone has any questions on that, but if not, it'll be ready for a vote. Thank you.
All righty. Councilor Majuk.
Thank you, Madam President. I have item 9, oh wait,
Yep.
9B?
Yep.
Yep. Labor agreement. I don't think I have any questions. Any of my colleagues have a question on that?
It's a go.
No, we're good.
You all right? You all right, Gather?
Yes, I am.
All righty, and it's not even Monday. Okay. I have item 10. I am going to call that ready. I will know by Monday. Yeah, he did. Okay, Counselor.
Just in time.
All righty, right on time, but I'm going to jump over her and go to the next one till she get her bearings, and I'm going to go to Counselor Green.
27 is the same thing, so we'll do it then.
Counselor Green. But she got to sit down for a minute.
All right. So we'll start with item 27, and which is related to the CSCA agreement. So, Councilor Schultz.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Yes,
Yep.
sorry. Just a quick question, because I wasn't here last year or the year before. The essential employment raise, is this retroactive, and who does that affect?
Margaret.
Hi. So the essential employee bonus, it's a one-time payment to anyone who was here back, I believe it's March 17th, 2020, and is still employed. And there's 3 tiers where the employees in CSCA would get paid at, depending on what their work situation was at the time.
Okay, I saw that there was a range, so I'm assuming the lower end were the people that weren't as frontline as the higher range. Is that-
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
very good, thank you.
Any other questions on item 27? Okay, thank you. Items 28, 29, and 30 will be discussed in executive session on Monday. Item 31 is the Erie Canal Museum. Want to just introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natalie Stetson. I am the Executive Director of the Erie Canal Museum, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do you want to just give a brief summary of like what the program funding normally gets used for?
Sure, happy to. So the City of Syracuse and the Erie Canal Museum have had a relationship for many decades now. Along the formation, the creation of the Heritage Area Visitor Center, which is also called the Urban Cultural Park. The Erie Canal Museum has run this site, so it is that if you guys have been to the museum, and I hope you all have been to the museum, we have the 1850 Syracuse Waylock building, and then adjacent to that is a newer building, and that building was constructed in the 1990s as the Urban Cultural Park Visitor Center, now called the Heritage Area Visitor Center. And the museum maintains that visitor center. We welcome visitors from all over the world, as well as the residents of the city of Syracuse and Onondaga County. As part of the agreement that we made with the city, the museum is open 7 days a week, and we do not charge admission. And that continues to be true to this day. We're a donation-based museum. And so we're open close to 360 days a year, and are free and open to anyone to come visit. And so this is the payment that the city gives to the museum each year to help us maintain that kind of schedule. And that's what it is.
Questions?
So do you have a estimate number of how many people actually come through the museum on a yearly basis?
So in a typical year, we see over 20,000 visitors a year that come to the museum. Last year, we saw just over 12,000.
Okay.
And I think we'll get back up to that 20,000. Maybe not this year, but I'm hoping by next year.
And then my next and last question is, I'm looking at this from the city, so otherwise, how do you fund yourself?
Such a good question. So we do get support from Onondaga County and New York State as well. But then a lot of our money does come from those donations from visitors who walk in the door, as well as membership and annual appeal that we do each year. So a lot of it is kind of contributed income. But then we also do make money from our programs that we offer and gift shop sales, and we kind of, it's a mixture. We try to have a nice diverse funding base so that if things get wonky with one of them, we still are stable enough to do
So
this.
would you be able to send me your whole breakdown? I want to know what your membership
Absolutely.
is. I want to know the different funding sources and what comes through. So if you could send that to me, please.
Happy to.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Okay, item 32 is DocuPet. Is that?
Pet, let's see where we at here. DocuPet is this organization out of Texas, no, out of Canada, I'm sorry. And they provide software service for the clerks to do dog licensing. I think also parks and maybe police use this software program also. Maybe about 3.5 years ago, the state decided they didn't want to do dog license no more. And they, left it up to municipalities to find, that service for themselves. And the previous clerk and the mayor, they got together and DocuPet became our licensing, dog licensing provider. And this here is just one of two renewals that we have. And if you notice that it ends in September, and the reason why is that somehow in the midst of all, maybe including COVID, that this contract was overlooked, the renewal was overlooked. And so come September, I'll be back in front of the council again, asking for the last renewal period. So that's pretty much it.
And so question for you, Patricia, because I can count back to before we had DocuPet. And how is that going? How well is that going?
It's actually going really well. It was a rough start, just like any they were a new company back then. We were one of the first in the States to get them. But right now it's going pretty well. It's like dog licensing have tripled. The intent never was to make money from this program, but to make our neighborhood safer so.
And then my last question, do you see a lot of pet owners now coming
Yeah.
to get their dogs registered?
Yeah, it have increased. They can either get licensed online or they can come into our office. I'll say for before we started, it was like 17,000, close to 18,000 dog licensing, and last year it was maybe 2,400 or something like that. So yeah, so there is a big increase in dog
2,400 or
licenses.
24,000?
No. I'm talking about. I'm saying 1,000. It was 1,800 dog licensing when we first started the program, and now the last 2021 was about 2,400.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, item 33 and 34 are IT items.
Good afternoon, counselors. Kelsey May, Director of Digital Services. So we are requesting to renew a contract with Edmunds GovTech, which is the parent company for IPS. It's a critical operational software. It's a system of record for code violations, a lot of the permits that haven't yet been converted to the new software, projects and pre-development activities. It is in our pipeline to retire over the next 5 to 7 years because it's non-prem software, but we will need it for at least the next 3 years. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Always got questions. So, this software, is this gonna work with our PeopleSoft at some point?
No, so it's actually, so it's currently in use now. It's been in use for the last 10 years. We haven't necessarily done any work to integrate it with PeopleSoft at this point because it doesn't do any revenue generation or tracking any revenue generation. But in the future, when we do look at, like other pieces of software to replace it, we certainly can look at, opportunities to do that and track that information in the new software and tie it back to PeopleSoft.
And that's because we haven't purchased the modules, right?
It's because it's not necessarily a core function of that particular software within our current processes.
Okay.
when we do kind of like the process re-engineering, we can look for opportunities to capture revenue and then tie it back into PeopleSoft.
Because I
But
think I'm looking for everything to merge into PeopleSoft
Yeah.
because we spent so much money
Yeah.
getting PeopleSoft developed that I think that everything should merge into that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so as of right now, because the core operations and functions are so different, there's not really an opportunity to do that, to improve our operations. But in the future, if we do decide that, you know, there needs to be more of a cohesive kind of feedback loop or process, we can certainly look into.
you guys, listen, when I'm gone, keep talking
This,
about
I think this is essentially same software we saw demonstrated at the meeting the other day, right? Commissioner, Medea and Jake went through with us about his codes and all that. Is this the same type of, same template? Identify commercial permits and code violations and all that?
Michelle Spansky, Deputy Commissioner of Neighborhood Development. I believe what Mediha was demonstrating was Camino primarily, which is one of the softwares. This is a different software.
So, but it says we went through commercial permits and code violations and all that, so.
This is the
Parallel system or
permits
something?
is in the process of upgrading to a new system that is much more able to do a lot of the functionalities that Mediha was walking you through. There are still a few specific permit types that have not yet gone through that migration. So there's some small components of permitting that are still exist within the software. By and large, it's really used for a lot of the day-to-day code enforcement operations, code violations, ticketing, through the BAA, things of that nature.
Well, I'm a little puzzled now. So this is an improvement on that system
There are two separate things. This is the improvement is what Mediha was talking to you about. But this is something that, because there's so much operationally that is all existing kind of within it. What Kelsey is here with you for is to be able to maintain some of those other aspects of operations that we still rely on it for.
This one's kind of end of life, right? You're trying to phase it out.
Correct.
And then really
Correct.
make Camino robust, one size fits all. But we're not there yet.
So, yeah, so on average, it takes to do around 12 application types within Camino. The development and all of the activities that go into actually doing the work to make it live for the public has taken about a year, which is typical. So it's a pretty large effort to do any of those systems conversions. Our team got on the ground in August, so that was what was able to, get a lot of that work going. So, but as I mentioned, within the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to continue to rely less on this software because it is end of life, as Councilor Schultz mentioned, but, it is where we're going to.
Okay, I'm not going to pretend I understand. Is this going to improve the functionality of the department, Commissioner?
No, this is the old one that they're
It's the
trying
old
to
one.
phase
It is
out.
the old
To
one.
phase it out now.
They still need it for another 3 years. They need an
I'll
extension.
rely on.
Thank you, Counselor.
As they're fading out.
Rely on our committee head of
So the $73,000 or 32, and then the 50, it's just to phase it out.
It's just the annual licensing fee that we have to pay each year to keep it live, yeah.
Sure.
It's a donut on a car that they're gonna put the real one on in a couple of years.
Well, I'm glad my fellow counselors are more in tune with the digital age than I am, that's for sure. Thank you.
No problem. Absolutely. And the next one, so we are requesting to enter into a contract with ERP1, which was previously the subcontractor of Cherry Road Technologies, which we came to you and requested an authorization of funds for AS400 retirement purposes. So ERP1 is actually contracting directly with them will allow us to save money because there is not somebody on the top taking funds and taking a fee off of, the ERP1 fees. So we're entering into phase 2 of the retirement analysis. This is specifically to do with retiring timekeeping and payroll functionalities and goes with the Kronos project and payroll modernization effort.
Any questions on this item?
No.
Okay.
I've had it already. I'm 0 for 1, so.
So you just gonna shush her.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. Item 35 is the Onondaga Historical Association. You want to, Director Rudd?
This is just the annual allocation we give them. Greg Tripoli is here if you have questions about the OHA in general.
Any questions on item 35?
I'm just wondering, this information that's shared from OHA is obviously used by landmark preservation. Is there any kind of repository that we have here at the city that we can tap into, or is it just kind of like they have a research data need, they get the information and they go? Because I like that information. I'm a big fan of OHA, by the way.
Hi, I'm Greg Tripoli from OHA. I'm sorry, your question is there
The
a...
question is, the information that the city asks from OHA, does the city actually go over and go through your file cabinets and look for the information, or do you have some kind of system where you share the data and then we retain it and then we can reference it going forward? Does that make sense?
Both.
Okay.
We try to accommodate the city. So our contract with the city is really about collecting, preserving, interpreting, storing, and exhibiting the history of the city and the county. But if the city has a particular project that they want history on, we would charge them for that extra service. They have the ability to come, and we will help them go through to do the research and find the answers themselves, or we can do it for them. So either or. If you're talking about what goes, anything that goes beyond the contractual relationship that we have with the city.
Yeah, no, not beyond it. I just wondered how that information was stored. So for instance, they did research on this building and they had to use it for something. Like, does the city retain that information?
No.
Or, okay.
Generally, no. The city does not have a repository right.
Okay.
So I do have a question. I had
Okay.
a constituent reach out to me. She's studying for her PhD, and she was interested in getting some information from, I believe it's like the 50s and 60s on the history of racism just in Onondaga County.
Yep.
So in this case, would she be able to reach out to you directly to be able to get the information, or would she be able to come there and like physically go through some of the archives? And is there a charge for constituents to do something like that?
So if we have the information, like ready, there's a couple of 100 years of history, so we can't have all of that in our heads. If we have the information, we will readily provide that information. If you're a member of OHA, the Research Center, use of the Research Center is free. Otherwise, there is a charge of $7 a day, but they're also able to come and do their own research. And we have research specialists there who pull files for them and help them and know where the history is for the particular issue that they're concerned with. So
Okay, so if she comes and gives you like a very specific topic, then you would be able to go through and kind of help her pull out the information.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank
Yep.
you.
And we do that for everyone.
Okay, thanks.
So, Greg, thank you again for all you do for the community.
Thank you,
through
Joe.
OHA. I remember last year we had a conversation around New Americans and, keeping the history of different New American that come from all different countries. How is that going? And I know lately it's Afghanistan. So how's that going? Is that still in works and is intact?
Yes, we haven't. I mean, we don't have any particular initiative to track Afghani refugees or any other particular refugees. I think historically, because of the issues on a world scale right now, we would be interested in the Ukrainian refugees, simply because of the history of the conflict that they're coming from. But in general, we collect and continue to preserve that history of our refugee community, and work with them to continue to collect and preserve that history.
What would be the primary source of collecting that information? Is it the news source, or is it through the State Department? Where do you get where do you gather that information?
So it's everything from oral history of the actual refugees and their experience, because that's a very compelling way to capture that history, to news reports, to digital, television, things like that. But mostly from the written record. Hi, Rita.
So the $25,000 that are going to be appropriated when passed, that's just for storing information. If the city, I didn't understand if you said if the city wanted to use the information, if there's an extra charge.
So when you say if the city wants to use that information, it depends on the way that they use it. But yes, so we have a contract with the city to collect, preserve, interpret, store, and exhibit the history of the city of Syracuse. We also have a contract with the county of Onondaga. It is, as you may know, there is a municipal requirement, legislative requirement, a law that requires municipalities to have historians on staff. Neither our city nor our county do, so OHA sort of fulfills that obligation. But yeah, it is an ongoing process, of collecting. Every single day, things come to OHA to be included in our collection. A manila envelope filled with photos, a trunk from cleaning out Granny's attic, to people who are downsizing, and probably 98% of the stuff that comes to us comes without the funds necessary to actually review that and collect and preserve that history. So everything we do, just about, is to raise or make the money that is necessary to collect, preserve, interpret, store, and exhibit the history of the city and the county. The price tag for that is, roughly $1 million a year. The city pays $20,000 a year towards that.
And I don't have a question, I have a comment. As a former OHA board member, I just want to bring to light that all of the pictures throughout City Hall, they're provided by OHA. And I've actually been talking to some of the community groups in the city, specifically because of the 15th Ward, and you've been able to provide them information on the 15th Ward. So, yeah.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work on the 15th Ward and the history of the 15th Ward for obvious reasons. And just an example, we are providing exhibits to Juneteenth Festival this week. We don't charge them for that. There's an event next weekend that's related to Juneteenth as well. We're providing all of the exhibits for that.
Did the organizations have to pay for that? Or
yes, we pay for those. So we find sponsors. Okay. They're traveling exhibits, but we have a lot on the 15th Ward because it's in high demand. I mean, the 15th Ward is information that is not just wanted by our local. This is a national issue now. The minute that President Biden mentioned Route 81 and the issue of displacing that neighborhood, we have been fielding calls from everyone from ABC World News Tonight with David Muir to, you name it, on a national level. The nation's eyes are on what we're doing with 81 because of the displacement of that neighborhood of the 15th Ward. There's also tremendous history in and of itself in the 15th Ward. It was the Jewish community before it was our African American community. So we had, a tremendous amount of history from those groups that are related to that 15th Ward. So we do a lot of work, most recently on collecting that information and providing it to radio commentary and news and newspapers and televisions and magazines and all that. Lots of intention on the
And I
15th
know
ward.
Rashida want to say something, but let me ask you a question though about the 15th ward. When you talk about what you're doing, do you, and it was Jewish, so do you do the conversion from the Jewish to the African American to the projects? Because we know how the project started and why it started, so do you put that into?
We do. In fact, we're doing a big exhibit right now, permanent exhibit for Syracuse Stage that they will have up in their lobby. That is the full history of the 15th ward. So we're talking about, we start with the Jewish community because that was the first inhabitants of the 15th ward. And we're talking about amazing history. The 15th ward and the people from the Jewish 15th ward built Broadway as we know it. The Schubert brothers grew up in the 15th ward, dirt poor, shoeless poor. They started their career by selling candy and newspapers when they were 8 or 9 years old in front of the 3 local theaters. I won't bore you with the full story, but eventually they built, and this is all with people from the 15th ward. This is their management people, the office personnel, the talent, the art direction, the advertising, the legal advice. All of that came from the 15th ward in Syracuse. And they built the largest theatrical empire the world has ever seen. When Syracuse came to New York City in 1900, the theater district was below 35th Street with all Syracuse people and Syracuse money. The Schuberts began investing around a little square called Longacre Square. We know that square today as Times Square.
Oh, we're going to have to bring you back and give us a history.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do.
So yeah, don't get me started. But the history of the 15th ward is absolutely unbelievable. And so we follow through. The Jewish community really, as they moved out, they retained a lot of the buildings and they became the landlords for a lot of the.
Tripoli, we're going to have to bring you back, but Rashida had a.
They make it 50.
Mr. Hogan, I'll get it any way I can get it. So that's.
I have a question. So for constituents who have information, pictures, data of the 15th ward, how do they go about making sure that get processed in the data and in history?
So a number of years ago, we worked with the Southside Initiative when it was part of Syracuse University, as well as the Black History Preservation Project, which was a group of community members and OHA to begin to collect that. We found that a lot of folks did not want to give up their photos and their documents and things, even for a short period of time. So what we did was we held these public meetings around the community where people could come, we would entertain and feed them while they brought their stuff and we would digitize it. We created an online museum and repository for the Black history of Syracuse. It's called Our Stories, ourstories.syr.edu. It is currently housed by the university in the libraries at the university. We're working very closely with them they've just modified that website. So what we're doing now is working with them to open it back up to the community so we can continue to add to it. It is a tremendous trove of information, but we would also like to curate exhibits on that virtual museum. So we're working with the Syracuse University libraries right now to get access to that so we can curate exhibits from the information that we've already accumulated on that site, and so that we can also add more information to that as time moves on.
And Michael, Councilor Paniagua's going to bring you back, or Councilor Green, and have you
Bring you back.
talk.
Anytime. It's my favorite topic is Syracuse history.
We can tell.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Madam
Thanks,
President.
Greg.
Thank you.
Councilor Hogan.
Thank you, President Hudson. I have a special permit request. Councilor Driscoll, are you okay with this?
Yeah, I'm curious, do we know what kind of restaurant this is? Is it an actual restaurant, or is it going to
I
be
think we have somebody.
is it a corner store type restaurant, or is it actual restaurant?
Good afternoon, Councilor Jeff Harrop with the zoning office. It is not a corner store. It's not a restaurant within a convenience store. It's a microbrewery with a tasting room.
Oh, wow.
Across the street from Bethany. Ooh.
They're gonna love it.
They're going to love that.
Go right after mass. Great, no, that sounds very, do you know the name of it?
Not off the top of my head.
Don't worry about it, it's not
It's okay. We got counselors who have been involved in the business before, and we got a new counselor who's going to be involved in the business, so maybe we got a chance to be a partner of the council.
Sounds great, thanks, Mr. Hare, appreciate it. I'm good with it, Councilor Hogan.
Yeah, okay. It's ready.
All righty. We're going to do a backflip, and we're going to go back to Councilor Caldwell.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have items 11, oh, she's here. Good. Items 11 through 26. Julie?
Julie LaFave, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. Item number 11 is an annual agreement we request from you. This is so that we can teach our own Red Cross courses in-house, so this is obviously pretty critical. We accept the payments on behalf of Red Cross and then forward the funds to Red Cross. Like I said, this is critical for us to continue to offer them seamlessly to our own future staff as well as anybody who wants to be a lifeguard.
I don't have a question on that particularly, but I do have a question about our pools, and are all of them opening? Or is
5 out of 8 of them are scheduled to open.
5, 8? Who are the 3 that are not?
Wilson, McKinley, and Lincoln.
Okay, and as far as the lifeguard shortage, which appears to be nationwide, has the city thought about trying to bonus or recruit more aggressively lifeguards? Or how are you
We
doing that?
constantly recruit. We assist the school district. We're even co-teaching the class that's happening at Nottingham. We are offering 3 of our own. The city subsidizes much of the rate. We start them out young by doing free swim lessons within our community centers, and that can certainly be a conduit to eventually, we could do essentially free lifeguarding classes if we want to go that way, which I think would be worthwhile. We did a salary increase this year to keep us competitive with everybody else in the area and with country clubs. So we have done a number of things.
Is that why the 3 pools are not opening, because of the shortage?
Yes,
Or for other reasons?
it's staff.
Okay.
It's
Because
staff.
as a district counselor, I'd be more than happy to go knock on doors and try to find some
The
lifeguards
problem
with
as
the
well
time
is,
off.
I mean, it's staff. Some people can only work 2 weeks out of 6 weeks. Some people can only work 2 days a week. So it's kind of also a perfect puzzle that we have to put together.
Are you still recruiting ongoing?
Always.
or-
We have a lifeguard class while we're still training our own staff and opening our own pools. We have a class this month. We have one in July. We have one in August. We will have another one in September. We'll have one in December. It is a year-long effort.
Okay. If there's any way, counselors, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I'd be more than happy to, try to reach out to you if I know Rashida, being the youth leader
I will
there.
say on a national scale, we're doing better than cities our sizes. Most of them are not even able to open half of their pools. So we are doing better than most.
Of course, we expect that.
Of course we are.
Syracuse, for heaven's
Julia,
sakes.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, did we ever try to reach out to the YMCA to see if we can partner up to use their lifeguards?
We did not. We did not.
Okay, so maybe we can talk about that. And then also, I know we talked already about McKinley and Wilson being closed.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is one of our hardest neighborhoods
Right.
where our children, especially in that Blueprint 15 area, 15 Ward area, where our kids need some support and help. So if there's anything we can do.
So we are close, but not close enough.
Okay.
We are closer to getting Wilson open.
Okay.
But we just aren't there yet.
Okay.
McKinley, I know it's ideal, but it is close to Kirk. So even if we could try, I know it's
Not gonna happen.
I know, but so we based it off of a number of factors, the largest pools, the depth, the past attendance, and I know that that's not the best, but, yeah, it was not an easy decision, no matter any way you look at it. But we're getting closer to Wilson.
I understand that.
I mean,
But
honestly, this may be the last summer that they can swim at Wilson. If they're gonna start the construction
Right,
next year with 81,
right.
this may be their last summer there.
We're getting close. That's all I can say is we're getting close.
Are they gonna open up the sprinklers at least?
They're already on. We turned them on weeks ahead of schedule this year.
Okay. They can get wet.
It was going to be a very hot, it was hot mid-May, so we turned them on in mid-May, which normally we don't open them till it gets closer to the end of the school year, so they've been on at least 3 weeks already.
Okay.
I'm gonna come down there with my hose then.
So they can
Okay.
get wet.
But you'll check on the YMCA day, maybe we can
Yes.
partner. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Any other questions on that item? Number 12 is an annual agreement for us. This is so that we do background checks on any prospective employees that work with either vulnerable populations or just anything that we feel that we need to look into that. Or, yeah.
Question on that.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Who's talking? Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, is NCSI, have they always been doing work for background checks?
For us, they have been, yes. It's about $25 a person, which is pretty competitive. They do a 50 statewide check.
Okay.
So what's the timeline for that background check? Do you hire them? Do they start working and then they get checked and then you tell them you can stay working, or you don't allow them to start?
We do the background
until-
check after the offer.
after the offer. So is there, what's
And
the
they're-
time from the
yes.
start?
I don't know the exact, I think it takes a few days. I can get you the exact information.
Okay, I just wondered-
I have we have an email that other departments sometimes look into it, that highlights our entire process, so I can send that along if you'd like.
Okay, no, I just understanding the process and when you do that.
Okay. Item number 13, this is the Haven at Skanda. Came recently, that was for an agreement for the end of the fiscal year, so this is an agreement starting July 1, so that way we can go again next year and then into the school year as well.
All community centers?
Yes, first and foremost, community centers. We provide the transportation to get them there.
So there and back for $300
That's per trip.
per trip, okay.
That's per trip. And we did it for $3,600, so I think we did approximately 2 trips per center moving forward for 12 months. And if we go through that, I'll come back and ask for an amendment to that.
And how do the kids respond?
They like
is
it.
a positive response?
It is, yes, and I think Spectrum News even did a
They
recent
did.
story of us going to them, and the kids like it, the owners at Skanda like it, and we're gonna continue to do this for any of the kids who wanna learn that.
So tell the owners we need a discount rate.
So just a quick question, if we're using city vehicles and staff to transport, why are we charging for that transportation? Who's paying that?
We're not charging for transportation, that's the donation, if you will, for Skanda to make time for us for a class. We provide the transportation, we provide the staff. Skanda's welcoming us there. It's just like a field trip, essentially. So that's the fee for Skanda to have their volunteers and the staff ready to have a program for us.
Okay.
Oh, I see the sentence makes it look a little funny, the transportation. So it's just transportation provided to us, but each time we go out there is $300 per group that comes. Yes, correct. I see why the sentence makes it a little confusing. Item number 14, this is an amendment to activate the second one-year renewal for Turf Tank. That is the GPS-enabled field painting system we use.
How's that working?
It's going very well. We have, we started with one employee being trained on it, and now we have a few of them. They've even named her. Her name is Misty. So she's doing great. Items number 15, 18, and 22 are all forestry related, so I'm going to have Steve Harris come up just one time for those.
Good afternoon, councilors. Steve Harris, city arborist. Item 15 is $40,000 for our urban forest restoration program. 2/3 of that every year are used to re-inventory our street and park trees, which is the foundation of our risk management program. We don't want to go too long without getting back to our street tree population. It's also a chance for us to remeasure them, and the diameter is the basis for how much things cost to do.
So are you looking at the ones in the different parks that's leaning over that's gonna fall?
That are what?
That's gonna fall, they're leaning, they're all crooked.
We do 1/7 of the city. We scatter throughout the city so that every corner of the city is looked at. Like, we look at every neighborhood and we make sure we're doing a portion of every one of our 23 neighborhood districts. And we just rotate around through all the points that we have in our database. So we try and get those when we can, like along boundaries with other properties and whatever we see. We evaluate each one of what level of hazard it is. Item 18 is our natural areas restoration program, which is used to restore our landscapes, to remove invasives, replant with natives, to improve sight lines. It deals with the areas that aren't part of our facilities and sports fields. The hillsides at Schiller, Lincoln, Thorndon. Our current focus has been Elmwood, Schiller, supplementing creek walk activity, Huntington Park, Huntington Woods this year, and I know I'm missing one. It'll come to me. Thorndon Park will be one this summer, and that's what that program's about.
And is that an annual program that?
It's a capital it's a capital improvement to all our natural areas. We have had no management of our natural areas in our parks for a long time. For example, at Elmwood, there is nothing growing on the slopes. So every year in our big rainstorms, we wash more soil down into the creek, which forces us to have to do some of the sediment removal that we're doing. The big floods also cause that problem. At Schiller, a good example is all the buckthorn that grew out of control over the last 20 years. Nobody can see, it makes people nervous. People camp there, and we have that problem in all of our parks. So we're just trying to get to all our parks and make them safe, thriving places that especially kids can roam around in and enjoy nature.
And so the list you gave us, Elmwood, Huntington, and all that, is that on the city website somewhere that us counselors can boast to our constituents about the work that's happening?
I can provide a program summary for all those, and we need to do a better job sharing what we're doing, what's going on, which I'm happy to do.
That'd be great. And can I just scooch back to number 15?
Sure.
I had a question about your authorization CIP project, and it says matching grant dollars internally. So you're
For the urban forest restoration account.
right. So you're asking for 40, and then there's another.
Right, I only spoke to, so we use the remaining 15 to supplement tree planting, to do other consulting services. In our last year's allocation, we did an urban tree canopy assessment, and from that, we learned that we lost another % canopy in the last 8 years. And, but often we fill in the gap. If we don't have a grant going out to use for match, we apply it to tree planting.
Okay.
Are we over the ash borer now? Have we moved past
We
that?
are in our 4th treatment round since we started. So every year we lose about 1% of our ash population. We gradually take trees out of cycle. Either they die because of the ash borer. Sometimes we find a tree because it's dead, like we didn't know we had an ash tree there, and then we can see the dead tree as a flag. We lose some to sidewalks, some to storms.
Do we still have a lot of ash borer in the city?
I don't know what the population is now. It is at the end of its peak.
Okay.
It rolls through like a fire and moves on to other communities. We are getting ash regeneration in our natural areas, and we don't know if the ash borer, it'll probably be with us always, but not
Just
at the extent,
minimally,
smaller,
right?
up and down, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Items 22 and 23 are to bond for tree planting, our annual tree planting program, which we do by a combination of request and priority areas. For example, we're focusing on all our lowest canopy neighborhoods as part of our tree equity focus, and this is a continuation of that program.
So if you don't use all of the funds, what happens to them?
We use the funds every year. We use our operations funds and our capital dollars. We spend them out in 18 months whenever possible.
All righty then.
Yeah.
So there's no rollback.
They do not hang around.
No rollback.
Thank you.
Thank you. Julie?
Thank you. Item number 16 is appropriate funds from cash capital CIP for green infrastructure capital projects. Item.
Questions?
No, she looked at me, but I'm.
Oh,
Any questions? No. Okay.
Item
Yes.
number 17 is also allocate funds for vehicle replacement. This is for trucks, vans, trailers, et cetera.
This is after all vehicles have been looked over, or is it just the ones that just happened?
We need to add vehicles to our fleet. We do not have enough for operational needs right now.
Do we see, oh, you're adding, so there's no replacement?
I'm sure some will. I mean, we lose a few every year. Rich DeVesti can speak specifically to that, but the Parks Department is growing. You guys have added positions through our budget and throughout the year that we don't have enough to get to all places. And one of them also, we're trying to get a van because we haven't been able to purchase a van for our community centers and senior centers for the last 2 years.
Do you have a mobile stage?
So we have you're talking about we have the large bandwagon. We would like to purchase another one that's not as large, that does not require a CDL to drive. So for the smaller community events, because the bandwagon isn't necessarily one size fits all. If you're having 100 people, you don't need the bandwagon. But we are looking at options for a smaller one that we can just tow with a truck. This is not because we haven't found, we're still working up the quotes for it.
So you obviously have more detail than, it says passenger vehicles plural, so is that one, or is that 2 vehicles, or 20 vehicles, or?
So right now, and I'll speak to the best I can with it because I don't handle this, Rich says, in the past, we would put a quote on here specifically what it would cost. And that way you would know it would be 1 truck, 3 vans, whatever, maybe. Right now, it's 18 months minimum for us to buy the way we used to for vehicles. So we've been doing what's called mini bids where we can buy right off the lot. We do it completely legally through the procurement process. So we don't know what the prices are until we do that mini bid. So that's why we don't have a specific amount on each one, because we can't get the quote right now. And vehicle prices are changing every day.
Yes.
Skipping to number 19 now, because Steve did 18. Number 19 is to enter into an IMA with Onondaga County. This is for a portion of a reimbursement for our deer tick program. It cost the city this year $30,995. The reimbursement from the county would be just shy of $24,000.
Can I just make a quick comment about that deer presentation we had the other day? I thought it was phenomenal, and I thought it was so helpful, especially to a new counselor, to have that level of education before this meeting that's already so complicated. So thank you to your team and to Greg Lowe. It was really great.
Thank you. It's like we timed it on purpose.
There you go.
Thank you.
did.
Item 20 and 21 are to authorize a bond for CIP for our annual paving roads and sidewalk.
Commissioner, I appreciate this. But
Yes.
You got Burnett Park on
Yes.
twice. Is that
Oh, okay.
purpose?
Oh, no, we're not going to do it twice. No.
Be great.
Also, as we talk about mistakes, the agenda on item number 20, the dollar amount is wrong on the agenda. It says 255. So it's 225. It's correct on item 21, but not on 20. No problem. Item 24, this is what we do annually. We request a waiver to purchase herbaceous plants. We have to purchase a variety of different species, plants, seeds, that it's too hard to go through the process every time. You know, it might be a specific plant for Meadowbrook. It might be something specific that we need in the greenhouse. So we do this annually just so that we can quickly purchase what we need. Item 25 is very similar in nature. Same thing for playground parts. You can only order replacement parts from the actual manufacturer. These are our main manufacturers of our playgrounds: Landscape, Parkitex, Game Time Miracle. So this is a waiver to purchase directly from them when we need replacement parts.
Are you seeing any backlogs like everything else when you're trying to order?
I mean, not for seeds, I don't think, but for
You
playground.
wouldn't for seeds, but for the playground, you might see backlogs.
So not necessarily, the main issue we're having is not necessarily ordering the parts, it's getting time with the vendors because they're short-staffed. We're having a very hard time getting the designs from them, like the work necessary before we even order the parts or the actual playground pieces. I don't know if they don't have enough salespeople or what, but that's been the struggle right now this summer.
Okay, because I know everybody else is being held up because of the back orders. They can't get everything.
We're in a situation that when we can get a design confirmed or a replacement confirmed, we're not having as many issues getting it. It's getting just to that point. Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Commissioner.
Item number 26. This is a waiver of competitive bid. This is on behalf of dog control. Post-life services are required. This has always been through pet cremation services. Their contract was expiring at the end of this month. They are not renewing. So police department found another vendor to do this, and it's from Peaceful Pets.
So whose dogs do we cremate?
This is, I mean, I don't think it's roadkill, but it's animals that they may pick up that do not make it, do not survive, or who are taken for services and still do not survive or need to be put down. They are put in a secure location and picked up to be cremated.
Okay, so we don't know the owner, so we're cremating.
Correct.
Okay.
We don't do this,
For
somebody doesn't
people.
come to us and ask us to do
Right.
this.
Okay.
We don't fill that service.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All set. 11 through 26 is ready.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilor Majuk.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 37, I have item 37 through 49. Item 37 is a labor agreement. Anyone with questions? I thought I saw Chief Mon earlier.
Katie, don't hit me. I just want to make sure we wasn't doing everybody dog.
You ready, Chief?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon. Hello, Madam President. Hello, common councilors. So I have items 38 through 46. 38 is a waiver to allow Sean Morrison to be a plan reviewer with our Fire Prevention Bureau.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Just say a little bit about that. What does he do?
So plan reviewing in the permitting process, typically it's our biggest obstacle to getting permits turned around once a person wants to submit a permit to get authorized from the city permitting office. We historically have had obstacles getting people to review our fire alarm systems to make sure that all the safety needs of when people are constructing buildings or rehabbing buildings, we have to have somebody according to the state fire code to review the plan. So at some point we had a fire protection engineer. They left, they went to a private company. We've had plan reviewers that we have on staff. Some have retired. We're always short. When I first got hired in 2018 and appointed to be the fire chief, we were down. We were backlogged hundreds of permits on the fire department. Right now, we pretty much keep pace with the amount of permits that come through, but the major hurdle was through our plan review. So this gentleman, Sean Morrison, he comes in and he helps review some of the plans. Without him, we would drastically fall behind. So that's, do you have any more questions on that?
No. Thank you.
I commend you and George. This is a real issue. Thank you.
Yes.
I mean, trying to get permits to start construction, so that's
Yeah,
great.
and he's been helpful and really good. The next several items, there are waivers for sole source vendors for the tools and equipment, our fire apparatus that we are critical to our responses to emergencies. I'll just go down the line. These are sole source vendors, which most of these items we buy off contract, and then these particular waivers are for us to buy parts to keep that equipment in service, and it's also for waivers for us to actually get the service needed to repair the part. So E1, they are the manufacturer and the company that makes parts for 5 of our different types of apparatus that we have that are standardized in our department. They're the authorized dealer for, like I said, for service and for the parts. 40 is for the Jerome Supply. We bought our self-contained breathing apparatus. That's what we wear on our back when we go into fires. We purchased those several years ago, but every year we have to buy parts, and they provide the service to actually maintain the equipment so it can be serviced every year. And there's standards that we have to make sure that we flow test and do all these things to make sure the firefighters have the right equipment going into a fire. So Jerome Fire Equipment is item number 40. Item number 41 is in relation to advanced electronic designs. We have terminals on all of our fire apparatus that communicate with the 911 center that gives us critical information when we're en route to fires or medical calls. So these are the specific equipment that we have on our dashboard that we read on the way to alarms. So these we bought off of contract also, but we just have this waiver in place to buy the parts equipment when they break to just keep them in life, service them.
Contract with the county?
Off a county contract, yes. Pbs Brakes, they're the only company that can actually provide brakes for our entire fleet. They provide these severe service linings, which provide a safer braking system for the large apparatus. So that is item number 42. Item number 43 is another company, Sutphin. There are one of our standardized pieces of apparatus that we buy off of contract. They're on the streets every day. This waiver is allowing us to buy parts and to actually utilize their company to service our equipment when we need to.
And just to make clarification, there are so many waivers because these companies basically are
They're the sole
one,
source, yep.
right?
So
the only one who can
Yep.
actually do the stuff.
And every year, for standardization to make sure our training is all united, every time we buy certain engines or ladder trucks, we try to keep with the same manufacturer so we can just standardize our training and also keep having the same equipment to repair the parts that need to be repaired. But we have to buy the parts from somewhere, and Sutphin and Vandermolen is the only authorized dealer for those particular trucks. Anybody got any questions so far?
Keep going, Chief.
Item number 45 is a waiver to use Lewis.
You skipped one.
Skip 44.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Syracuse Fitness, we have treadmills, exercise equipment in all the firehouses. We buy that off a contract through Syracuse Fitness. Andrew Venditti is their authorized dealer for the equipment. They have warranties on it, so he's the only one authorized to work on it or the warranty voids. So he has we have a waiver for him to come service the equipment to make sure it's in good working condition.
And the price has pretty much steadily been the same, right?
Yep, this particular waivers that we won't exceed $12,000 a year for him to service all of our equipment in all the different fire stations. Number 45 is for us to be able to utilize Lewis Uniform, which they're located over on Erie Boulevard, and Lewis is located over on Townsend Street, and United is over on Erie Boulevard. In our collective bargaining agreement, the firefighters, all the sworn firefighters, get a uniform card. So we are asking for a waiver to be able to utilize these two businesses that are in the city.
What's the value of the card, Chief?
$500 per firefighter, and that's in a collective bargaining agreement.
Do you pretty much use it completely use it every year, right?
Yes, every firefighter, we do inspections every year to make sure they have their right ensemble of equipment, and the goal is for them to use it every year. If they don't use it, it goes back into the general fund. Whatever.
Do they clean it? Do they clean the uniforms too?
Nope, it's just to buy like a shirt like I have, badges, insignias, just all your station uniforms. And we allow them to buy like one item, like a flashlight that we utilize for firefighting and things like that. But it's all through these two companies. So they're only allowed to use their card at these two city businesses.
And I was asking, so out of the 200,000, do they use it completely every year or not? No.
There's definitely some firefighters who they don't use the card every year. I can get the numbers of what's left in the accounts for you historically if you like, but we have to put together the $200,000 because that's what the cost of everybody getting what was agreed to in the CBA. So what's left over changes every year depending on how much people use their cards.
Can you repurpose that? Or
Can you say that one more time, Councilor? Your shirts last. It depends on how your uniforms wear and tear, I would say.
Talking about the money or the uniform? The money.
So they have until December 31st to use their card. If they don't use their card, it gets cut off, and then that account, Tim Rudd could probably describe this better than I can, but the money goes into the account, and then the next year they get a new $500. So if they don't spend their previous $500, it goes back into the general fund. Yes. And the last one is for United Radios. Waiver for United Radio. They are the company that all of the equipment in our fire stations that alert us to a call when we're in the fire stations, and they help us with our portable radios when we're on fire scenes. So it's a waiver to make sure they can provide us with the equipment and to be able to repair the equipment when it breaks and all the parts and the tools and things like that. So.
Are they the ones that give you the button to change the lights?
No. No.
I'm just curious.
No, they don't.
Okay, you don't hit me.
Is there any other questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Chief Shaw?
Good afternoon, everybody. Rich Schaff, Police Department. Hello, Chief. Good morning. Good afternoon. 48 is a request for a contract with Solon Quinn for professional.
47.
I got 48, I'm sorry.
Oh, you got 40, no 47 in your?
I printed out off a line, maybe it's one off or something.
Janet?
It's the deputy mayor.
Deputy Mayor is right there.
Thought you left me off the hook.
No.
We have an opportunity to apply for $1.5 million over the course of 3 years. Again, I've been before you before talking about how we want to increase our community violence intervention efforts. And so this application, typically when we apply to the DOJ, and it is police enforcement and focused. This is an opportunity for us to really look at the community intervention side of things, and so we will be submitting an application not exceeding $1.5 million. We're working diligently on it now, Janet and I, to submit it, hoping to support even more so our community-based organizations doing this work. They are actually at the retreat today. I'm getting good news from it. Our Dr. Pastor Jaime and those guys are there too. Our consultant that you approved, Dr. Tillman, and his team is there. So we're really trying to move this forward and get some support for them. So not many cities are going to be funded, but we're going for it.
So this is something to be able to support that group.
Yes.
To do what.
Yes. Part of what is going on today and what is going to happen through Dr. Tillman's work is we're going to get an idea of the landscape of our community violence intervention. Once I have a handle on that based on this input, I'm going to be coming back to the council because we are setting aside some ARPA dollars. So if we're able, we'll definitely have ARPA dollars with your approval, but we also will potentially have this funding. And we'll continue to look for funding to support that side of violence intervention.
And I just want to tell you, Deputy Mayor, I do appreciate that because I think anybody in the city, we're aware that every night we're having multiple shots fired and multiple shootings with people being hit.
Right.
And with the teams that's on the ground, there's only so much they're going to be able to do, especially when they're spending their time at the hospital and at the crime scene. So like I said, this is very well needed because right now it feels like we're under siege.
Yeah, we're going to go for the application. There won't be, I think there's 6 to 8 cities. We're making the case of why Syracuse should be one of those. Absolutely, we're the Cuse. And so we're going to go after this. But and I just want to remind everyone here and listening that for every shot that we know about, these teams on the ground prevented more of those.
Absolutely.
So the 1.5, what's the timeline?
Good question. It's 3 years. I wish it was 1.5. Every year is 1.5 for 3 years.
3 years, okay. And who's going to kind of lead that? Will be Mr.
The city of Syracuse. The
Kinsley,
city of Syracuse will lead it. We're embedding in some more support for his office, so an individual that would be responsible for the grant.
So Latif office.
Yes. Yeah.
Once you apply, what's the timeline for the turnaround?
We have to be able to start our planning process in October to get the plan back to the DOJ to hit the ground running right after the first of the year. But the timeline starts right after they award, which we're expecting around September, October.
Okay.
This is great. Deputy Mayor, we'll cross our fingers to
Please.
hope that.
We'll keep looking.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning.
It's your turn now.
Yep. Item 48, it's a contract with Solon Quinn Studios. Went through our RFP process. It was approved unanimously and approved by the mayor as well. This is to help us with microsite development. It's basically going to help us with recruitment and retention and rebranding the police department in a positive light. And item 49 is contract for.
Wait, you got a question?
I have a question about 48. So this is a year that you're asking for this money to be used in a year. How long is it going to take for the videography and the microsite to go live?
So I don't know the exact, well, we gotta wait for the website to be up and running, and I'm being told that's gonna be by the end of the month. So we've been working on this for a couple of years now, so Solon Quinn has been free of charge, doing a lot of work. He's got a lot of product already.
Okay.
And so I assume as soon as the city website's ready, we're ready. And then we've been talking about developing a recruitment microsite for 3 years now, so, because what we have is antiquated, it's gotta go.
Yeah, and from what very little I know of Microsite, which if there's IT experts in here, correct me if I'm wrong, the beauty of that is you can create this, basically a website independent of whatever you're actually connected to, and it can kind of run in its own little world,
Yes.
but still be connected to whatever website, if it's good or if it's antiquated. So
yes.
that's it. Yeah, I hope that this information comes out sooner than later and it doesn't take like a year to cultivate, and then next year is your recruitment campain, because
Yeah, I'm not a big person on that technology type of things, but the people that are tell me that our site is woefully inadequate.
oh, it definitely is. I'll agree with that, but a
Sit right next to me,
microsite,
Chief.
That's why I belong, to be honest with you, because people look at it and says old and antiquated. I'm like, it looks like a website to me.
and that can be old and antiquated, but a microsite is its own little
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
So, Solon Quinn can do their magic and then just link it to
Yeah,
your old
content's
clunker.
being produced. Lieutenant Malinowski's working on it. Sergeant Tom and Recruitment's working on different aspects, so we're ready to go when everything's in place.
Cool, great.
So is it going to be on the police website as well?
So there'll be a link from the police
Well, the
website.
link, and then I don't see the deputy mayor because I'm wondering if it's going to be on the city website also.
So there should be, the way I understand these things work, and once again, I should be next to Counselor Hogan, is the city will have the main website, the police department will have a page off of that, and then the recruitment will be a page off of that.
Okay, so it'll be 3 different places, okay.
Is that the $205,000, is there anywhere where there's a breakdown of how that's dispersed?
I can get you a copy of the RFP, because it kind of spells out where the money's supposed to be spent, so I can provide you with that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm actually looking for that as we speak,
Yeah.
so.
I don't know how much he's getting from it, though. How much is Solon Quinn, how much is he getting? Yeah. They're getting that from him and give him like a little.
All set?
I think that should be it. Any questions?
49?
49?
The contract with two reverends, Reverend Jaime's been with us for a while now, and a new reverend that I haven't met yet is Kathy Hodges.
Oh, you met her. She came in here and prayed when you were here.
Praise me personally?
Yeah, to you personally.
Great for you.
So silly.
She must have me confused with somebody. Oh.
Any questions? Thank you, Chief.
All right, let's get going.
Madam President, that's all for me.
Okay, we're talking too much. Let's go. Counselor Allen.
Hi, okay, I have items 50 through 55. I know 50, 51, and 52, I believe those were the ones that were held over from last time, so I just wanted to see if you had any updates on those first.
Sure. Good afternoon, Councilors. Kimone Jordan, Director of Housing and Neighborhood Planning. So all of these items were held from the last vote list. So for 209 Crippen Ave, we'd actually like to hold it again. They submitted a tax trust application, but it's still processing in the Finance Department.
Okay.
For 435 Lafayette Ave West, that one's delinquent by $13,000. There's been no progress on the application, so they haven't submitted any documents. So we can move
Come on,
forward.
could you get closer to the mic?
Sorry, so we can move forward with that one.
Yeah.
For 519 Lynch and 313 Rosamont Drive, 519 Lynch is delinquent by $21,000, 313 Rosamont is delinquent by $23,000. The owner submitted an application for a tax trust, but the application was denied.
For
They
both?
have- Sorry?
For both of them?
Yes.
So this is the same owner?
Yes, so it's the same owner. It was denied because they have 3 delinquent properties total. So to comply with the tax trust guidelines, they would have to have $50,000 upfront to enter into the tax
All
trust.
righty, we're ready.
Wow.
So that was for 52 and 53?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and then lastly, 906 Valley Drive, we'd actually like to withdraw this one. It's delinquent by $25,000, and the owner is paying the taxes, fixing open violations, and also setting up a payment plan with the water department.
Oh, good.
Good.
Okay, any questions?
You said no one's been in touch on 435 Lafayette?
No, no one has reached out. Our department has reached out to the owner, but they haven't gotten in contact with us or finance.
And your process is usually a couple of letters and
Yep, so a 60-day notice is sent out, a 30-day notice is sent out, and then Neighborhood and Business Development does a courtesy call. So we let them know that, they're delinquent and they can contact the finance department to enter into a tax trust.
So we can see, I know Counselor Gathers and Driscoll, if y'all want to reach out to them over the weekend and kind of touch base and then make sure that they're actually communicating with Camone. And you said you're going to withdraw item 54, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then item 55? Yeah, they have reached out to him last.
Hey, councilors. Matt OJ, Commissioner of Assessment. 134 West Lafayette was approved in 2019. As we got to pre-closing, apparently, we discovered there was an extra lot that hadn't been described in the property description, so we're going back to amend that ordinance. We've corrected our internal records, and then that should be ready to move forward, I believe.
So it's like a side lot, something adjacent?
Yeah, there's just a 3.5-foot sliver of Lot 9 that wasn't described in there. Meg Ryan caught it in the deed. So with that fixed, we should be ready to go.
Okay.
Thanks all.
All right, thanks.
Can we go back to 51, please? Ms. Camone?
Latoya, you want to go back to 51?
Would you, for 51, for 435 Lafayette, would you mind emailing me the contact information?
Sure.
That you're trying to reach the person, just so I can make sure that it's
The same.
the number?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all.
That's it.
Thank you.
All righty, Counselor Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 56 through 67. Commissioner Robinson, you want to get us rolling on 56?
It's a public hearing, right?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, okay, yep.
So 58 and 59 is to amend the slurry seal ordinance. The rising fuel prices caused the bid to come in a little higher than expected.
Right.
So it's going from 1.1 million to 1.5, correct?
Yep.
We didn't.
So you're anticipating that's the increase, but have they reached out to you? You said that the bid is higher than asked and the gas price is expected to be higher, so you don't have the actual number of what that is?
Because we haven't started slurry sealing, but the.
Okay, so they'll come after.
Okay.
Can I go back to 56? Do you mind, Counselor?
No, go to
Okay.
town.
I know that's just public hearing, but I do have a couple of questions about.
Not a public hearing, already. That was 57.
It's to advertise, so there is going.
Okay, but I can ask about the content of it, even though that's just for authorizing a public hearing. So it says that, be it ordained that DPW shall make improvements by use of city forces or by contract with a private entity. So this is our own internal city staff that perform that function, right?
Are we going to 56 you're talking about?
Correct.
Sweeping?
Sweeping.
Yes.
Straight
56.
sweeping.
Yes.
So, okay, so it's just totally city staff. There's no private entity.
No.
Okay. And then my next question is, there's overtime wages related to that, and in 2021, it was 27,000, and 2023 anticipated to be 90,000. So what's the increase of overtime needed for?
More trucks.
Do
We have more sweepers. So that equates to more overtime, more people.
Okay, so,
We only had 3 last year. We added 3 this year, so we got 6.
okay. So when does the overtime get performed? Like, just during the daytime, right? You wouldn't do that at
So our
night?
shifts are 4 to 12, and sometimes we stay over to 2. Sometimes when we come in Saturdays and Sundays, sweep the festivals, downtown. We got to get in there when no one's in there.
Okay. Like the yard waste schedule, is there a street sweeper schedule?
I know
Do they
you
work
have-
together?
The short answer is no, there's not a schedule, but we try to stay behind the yard waste schedule if we can. Typically, it's every 5 days we make it our way around the city, typically, especially when all 6 sweepers are up.
Okay.
But that's just an estimate, of course.
So does that mean every street, every 5 days could potentially get swept, or
Only curb streets, don't forget that.
only curb streets? Okay. Go ahead.
Just to
Counselor.
follow, actually, for Councilor Schultz. So I Just to follow up with what she said, when we had less trucks, we were just doing less sweeping, and that's why there was less overtime? Because you would think, like, as you have more trucks, you need less overtime because they can do it during normal hours, but we were just doing less work.
We just doing less work.
Right, because people were complaining that the streets weren't getting swept. I got a lot of
And
calls
out of those
about
three, only probably one worked. So it was kind of a toss-up, so.
Do you sweep the parks?
When we can, yep.
Okay. And you have access to unlocking the gates and things that are, like, for instance, Schiller Park. I asked back in April if the parks get street swept, and
Yes,
I
we
didn't get a
have-
response on that, so.
We're the keepers of the master keys, so.
Okay,
We
okay.
can open up anything, all Pandora's box.
So bottom line, go sweep Schiller.
Text me. Text me. Now, you going on?
And so back to the schedule, is it possible to ever put that on the list of things to do? Because I just think it's so important. Reliability, I'm not saying this happens every time, but the last time our yard waste was collected in my neighborhood, the street sweeper came at 5:30 in the morning, and the DPW trucks were there about 2 hours later.
So to give you a context, yard waste sometimes get behind, right?
Oh, sure.
So it's tough for
Without a
us
doubt.
to stay with a schedule with sweeping when yard waste is behind. Right now, we're a day and a half behind, so it's kind of tough to
Sure,
say,
sure.
okay. So we tend to not do that, but we're looking at things.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody good? Further questions? All right, let's keep rolling, Commissioner
All
Robinson.
right, 60 and 61 are waivers, one for brakes, the other one's for hydraulics, which,
How did we miss?
58, did we do 58? 58.
the slurry seal.
Yeah, we're talking about the slurry seals.
Slurry seal.
Bump from 1.1 to 1.5. Does anyone have questions on that?
Yeah. Thought I did
So, yeah, I have a question. We talked about a little bit about the gas prices going up, but just to point out that when the fire tower was bid back when, and then they came back to the table and asked, it's a pretty similar increase, so can we expect these type of increases to go on throughout other bids that were done then versus now?
I would think so, yeah.
So-
Probably.
Okay, so that's to be expected.
Gas is $5 a gallon. So.
Right. Right.
Yep. Okay, so communication. If you remember back to the budget hearing, I asked about why the DPW education line was zeroed out. And I think you mentioned that you thought it was in some other part of the budget, and I'm new to this whole thing, so I couldn't find it. But I will tell you that I've had a lot of issues with constituent complaints about notification regarding paving and curbing and driveway compromising and door hangers, and some people get the verbal from the DPW worker and some people don't. Some people get the door tag, some people don't. So can you just talk about the communication process for this slurry seal plan ahead?
It's sort of like the same way. We usually hang door knockers on the doors of residents, alerting them that it's going to be slurry seal in their area, to be aware. And we typically do that probably, slurry seal is different from recon, so we do that probably two to 3 days ahead, depending on weather, obviously, Mother Nature. So we try to stay about 2 to 3 days ahead of notification. And recon, as we spoke on email, recon is kind of different, right? So we try to give them, if we give them a week, someone's going to forget, right? They're going to park, we're going to have to get it towed, yada, yada, yada. So we try to give them more or less of time so they know, okay, don't park here on Thursday. On Tuesday, you'll know not to park there on Thursday.
So when you say recon, sorry, I'm
I'm
new to
sorry.
this whole scene. Is that new curbs and street pavement?
Mill and pave.
Mill and pave. That could compromise people who have illegal driveways, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a really sore subject in the first district right now because we've got a lot of really old homes who have illegal driveways, and I'm not defending the illegality of them. However, there is a process in place here with the city, as we know, with variance applications and easements and other illegal things that can happen. So I'm just really pleading to you that going forward, we give consideration to those streets, even when you identify and came to us back in, I don't know when it was, March, that we approved all the streets to be mill and paved. I was new, I didn't think to ask that question, but correspondence at that point, even connecting with zoning to say, how about these blocks? How many illegal spots do you see? And can we notify those people to say, here's what you can do. 1, you can ignore it and just get your new street and lose your driveway. 2, you can go the route of legal. 3, we have resources for you to answer questions, because right now I've got a lot of old new Americans who still don't speak English well and have lived here for more than 50 years. And, their home values are threatened with losing a driveway, granted only as significant as whatever it can be, but safety. We have elderly living here. They require that proximity to be safe. So I just really see this as a major issue with communication. So if there's anything that can be done to add to your budget for DPW
Counselor,
education.
I appreciate what you just said, and believe me, I've been in this fight for a long time. But I think the commissioner is the guy who gets things done. I think this is sort of a policy decision that maybe the administration and some of the district counselors can discuss about some people that have had driveways for 50 or 60 or 100 years all of a sudden being eliminated. So I think the commissioner he'll take care of stuff, but I think we should talk. Is that okay, Greg? I think we should probably talk, because my belief in government is first do no harm.
Yep.
And these people have had driveways for years and years, and
But what do you mean by eliminating them? What does that mean?
They curb over the driveways.
Oh, wow.
They curb up too high so that cars can't get over the curb to get to their illegal driveway, and they'll also remove the pavement that gets them to their illegal driveway.
And they're not supposed to do that, though, because they're supposed to grandfather it in.
There's no such thing, I guess.
Wow.
Wish there was.
So,
I believe in it.
I think really important discussion, and to Councilor Hogan's point, and to your concerns about it, Councilor Schultz, this is Greg Lowe, Chief Policy Officer, by the way. We should have further discussion with DPW and with the administration, talk about ways we can improve how communication occurs about this, what policy decisions might need to be made to address some of these legacy driveways.
Right.
It is undoubtedly a significant challenge, and earlier communications would help. Couple of things that I just want to note specifically regarding Carbon Street. I think now the DPW team, the zoning team, through intervention with your help, they are all connecting and talking to to that resident and potentially others. So that's helpful. Earlier communication will make it possible for people to know that. So the second thing I wanted to say is our new infrastructure public information officer has been assigned to work with the DPW team, and I'll get involved as well to look at how we improve that earlier notification to residents. What's been done is always been close to the start of the job, because as you know, all these variables, the team isn't sure when they're going to start. And it can vary. We think we're going to start in 3 weeks, and the variables happen and they need to start in 2 days.
And that's totally fine. But when we're talking about losing people's driveways, that's a whole different.
But that discussion, to your point, that notification could happen weeks earlier. It says, this summer we intend to be doing this. You may be, it's not easy because that staff is working on, that actually goes out and does the assessments and looks at it, is working on other things at that point. So to Councilor Hogan's point, it's a lot of pieces that need to be put together in policy decisions.
Issue is very difficult to get
Sure
across.
is.
It's like, so we've been through these fights
I'm sure.
before.
Yeah.
And believe
And that's
me,
why-
I mean, I'll talk to Councilor Schultz and some of the other district councilors. Like I said, you can't take, and that happened on Wilbur Avenue before I came in, so.
Councilor Driscoll, would it be appropriate maybe for me to follow up with you with these interested, and then you can involve councilors as interested in a follow-up discussion?
For sure. You'd like to make a committee or just an informal meeting?
I'll leave that to you to decide what you want to do as a counselor. I'm open for either.
I think an informal meeting would
Okay.
probably be most appropriate first, and then a committee if we need to.
And then when we do that, can we talk about the communication piece of it? Because I know me and Counselor Kessler, we worked on those door knockers for a while, and it was all in one, maybe 2 languages. Have we changed the different languages on these door knockers that we hang up? We have to. We have a huge population of different
And
folks.
good luck
We
with the
have
first
to-
district, because we have, I think, the most
Well, I get
range
that. That's
of-
what I'm saying. We have to start looking at different languages when we put these door knockers out, too.
Exactly.
So to your point, we identified on our recon list a few residents that are going to be affected with the curbing. and we're working with zoning right now. Person out of my department is working on trying to help them apply for those permits and all that stuff, so.
And back to Counselor Hogan's comment about variance process is not easy. Time is the issue. So you guys are loaded and ready to go. And here we have these issues that are going to take the constituent a considerable amount of time. And that, you know, screws up your schedule, no doubt. So for the here and now, how is that, how do you go forward?
It's early, so we can pivot to different directions. So I'm glad that you brought this up. We're going to meet it head on, and we're working with zoning, and that's all I can say right now.
Yep. And I'm happy to hear that.
Hopefully next year we'll have a better process.
Yep.
And with the communication and door hangers, Commissioner, I remember last year I had a situation when they were milling paving South Ave, right? And then the door hangers, the adjacent streets didn't get any notification. So how far does your notification goes in terms of door hangers?
Radius.
So South Ave, that's Rockland and other streets coming off South Ave, and they get affected. So do they?
It's usually on an affected street. That's usually what it is, just a street.
Right, it's a short radius, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Well, just the street that's getting paved.
Just the street.
Do it a few days in advance, like you said. There's weather and other things that impact it, but.
So the close by street don't get anything? Okay.
Yep, no. Are you suggesting we should? I don't.
Well, based on the reason I'm raising this question is because the residents in the adjacent street did raise that question. Like, we had no idea this was happening, and it impact our commuting and traffic time. So, because South Ave right there is a main.
I get it.
Yeah. So.
Right now we just focus on the street, the impact residents, but I understand.
Yeah.
So back to slurry seal, I have a quick question. So how long from start to finish, forget the weather part, does that take any given block or?
2 seconds.
You talking about a specific street?
Yeah.
2 seconds.
It's like doing a driveway. It's like
2 seconds.
And then you
put down
block
a
it off
machine.
for how long?
Excuse me?
How long do you block it off for it to cure?
Just a day.
Or it's instant?
Just like I told you with Recon. Once we pave, you can ride on it that same day. Once we take the cones off, that day the street's open.
Okay.
Counselor, you can remove it with fingernail polish.
Okay. We good? Everybody good?
One more question. Sorry. Are you able to share the schedule? Like, we have the press release that came out of the blocks that are being affected by the paving. Are you able to share that schedule with times, estimated times, or even 2 weeks notice with the council?
See, that's tough. We have a weekly recon meeting, which are with utilities, engineering, water department. So it's a bigger thing that we give these streets out, and they say, well, this is not good. This is not good. So it's like a week. I mean, we could do that, but
So would that be a better job for Kelly Montague, who's the Public Information Officer for Infrastructure? Is she privy to that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
she can come to that. It's a weekly recon meeting that we have with, we open it up to everybody, suggestions, and
Because ideally, if we could just transition these constituent questions to her, and she's got the finger on the pulse, Counselor Schultz wouldn't have to ask you all the time. So, okay, thank you. It's a quality of life issue.
I understand.
Okay, we good? Where are we on?
Thank you.
60, 61? Do we do those?
Waivers, all right?
Yeah, waivers, welcome, we already did those. All right, 62. That's the Creek Walk. Very exciting. Mary?
This is it.
Groovy.
Mary Robinson, City Engineer. Items 62 through 64 are related to our TAP project for Creek Walk improvements and the Creek Walk Maintenance Bridge. We're asking for construction money in the amount not to exceed $1.185,366 for a total project cost of $1.535,366. And this is TAP money, so it gets 80% federally reimbursed, no March SLE, and 20% local.
Oh, man, don't look at me.
So what exactly will be done, Mary? Do we know?
This is making improvements to the original Creek Walk north of Spencer Street, and then the Creek Walk Maintenance Bridge in that area also needs some bridge repairs.
Bridge repairs is the bulk of it? Okay.
So Mary, can I ask you a question? The construction of all the creek walks are done, correct? It's just maintenance now, right?
Well, we are going to be getting some additional money to finish the creek walk south of Kirk Park down to the South City line.
Okay, down to Seneca?
Yes.
That far down?
Yep.
And that's the last construction?
That's the last new construction, yes.
Okay.
So, but yes, this is more of an making upgrades.
You're gonna continue to come back to us for maintenance and stuff like that, but as far as construction, the one to Seneca is it?
Right, other than Phase 3, which is south of Kirk Park.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, fellow counselors? No? Okay, let's roll on, Mary. That was 64,
Yep,
65?
65 is a TIP project where we're amending our agreement with CNS Engineers for the to add the construction inspection for East Colvin Street from Salina to Jamesville Ave.
Okay, and that's an increase of 400K?
Yep.
Okay. What caused the increase?
We go phase by phase with the consultant, so we had previously authorized the preliminary and detailed design, and then now we're adding the construction inspection phase.
Oh, okay.
So it's not well,
Okay.
it is an increased cost, but it's for a different phase.
Got you. Okay. Any questions, counselors? No? Okay, let's move to 66.
66 and 67 is our annual infrastructure improvements project for $325,000. We used to have separate accounts for minor bridge repairs, culverts, retaining walls, so we've consolidated all into one account so that we can use this for minor bridge repairs required per DOT inspecting our bridges, culverts, retaining walls, creek repairs, and that type of thing.
How many retaining walls do we have in the city? It can't be a lot.
I'll have to get back to you on that, but I would say it's probably, there's a lot like along the creek too, but I would say there's probably 60, 70.
Okay.
But I can get back to you on that, President Hudson. I have to count up our inventory.
Okay. Any other questions, counselors, on these two? Okay. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it.
I can do 68 also, if you're ready.
Okay, great. Yeah.
I know
And I see Suzanne's.
So, no.
Oh, she have to go.
There's a committee
All that for today. We have a
committee meeting tomorrow at 11.
Yeah.
And then the school district is coming
Yep.
with a full explanation of what's that.
Well, if I could just interject, I mean, we did spend a lot of time talking about transition and work permits and stuff like that for $30,000, but this could run into quite a bit of money. So I was just wondering if we, Suzanne?
She left.
She left.
I just wonder if we could get some sort of a working. Oh, I know, but I liked beforehand, for the meeting, I would like a working template of the financial structuring of this agreement.
Right after we finish and, yeah.
I mean, just so we know, because there's figures there, and I wonder if there's gonna be like a PLA and things like that, too.
Okay, so you'll get that, Counselor Hogan? Those
I
are-
think it probably should, all the councilors probably should. get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Send to all the council, and then I believe that's all my items, Madam President.
All righty, need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Mary.
I gotta eat.
We get the boys on a second.
Yeah, I understand that.
Too much.